Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Local Soccer Show, brought to you by Evangelista Sports, Canada's premier soccer store, and a mecca in Little Italy where you get all your gear for anything you might need. Check them out on their website, evangelistasports.com, or they even have their other store in Laval where you can go and get whatever gear you may need for your soccer needs. Thank you again, Evangelista Sports, for your support. Today, for the first time on the Local Soccer Show, we usually had guests who were former players, coaching. We talked a lot about the CDC, the Canada licensing, but we're going to take a different path today and talk about the issue of refereeing. We'll discuss the behavior of the parents and players towards these poor referees, especially the young ones. And it's really a pleasure and an honor to welcome Marco Pantanella from the Concordia soccer region to discuss these issues. I think it's very important because we want to make the game fun for the kids. We want to make them enjoy the sport. And also, we want the referees to not be abused and let the poor kids learn on the job. We all make mistakes. And anyway, we'll delve into this topic with Marco after we play our intro video. It's a great pleasure to welcome from the Concordia soccer region, Director of Refereeing, Marco Pantanella. Welcome, Marco. How are you?
Hi, Marcello. Thank you for having me. Much appreciate the invitation.
No problem. My pleasure. Marco, before we talk about your role as a referee and as a director refereeing at the region, we always give the guests a chance to talk about when they started playing as a kid and where they played. So why don't you go down memory lane and let us know where you grew up, at what age you started playing, and in which club did you start playing soccer, and how you progressed from there as a player.
Okay, so I'm a bit of a citizen of the world. I was born in Germany in Europe. My dad was working at an international organization there, so we lived for 8 years over there, and then I started playing very very informally with my school friends. Up until I was age 8, and then age 8 we moved to Paris. We lived there for 10 years. I started playing a little bit more seriously with my high school friends. Still nothing that resembled like a structured club in any way with coaching and training sessions. I had like an informal high school team, but nothing serious. And then in 2000, when I was 18, I moved to Montreal for my university studies, and that's when the real soccer started because I started playing pickup soccer most of my free time at the university and really got into it then. Um, we won several intramural championships at McGill University where I was playing, and that's also where I got the refereeing virus. In my senior year, I decided to join the ranks of the referees who needed some extra staff, and I thought, why not make some extra money? And then the what started off as a simple job that I never thought would turn into an actual career, which is what I am now. And throughout the years, I've had opportunities to ref at sometimes high level, not to the best level that one could hope to achieve in refereeing. Never went professional, but I did get invited to a couple of national championships, and especially in futsal. And now I'm here. And then the administrative side, I've been working at Concordia since 2015. It's been 9 years, and I'm in charge of the referees here. We have about over 300 refs. I stopped playing pretty much the same time I got hired in 2015.
Yeah.
I played pretty. I would say the max that I played here at the local level was the equivalent of AAA. Never the federated network, but We played. I don't know if you must remember this league, the West Island Industrial Soccer League.
Yes.
Played at Catalonia with Brian Williams. So I
Mm-hmm.
played in a team over there, 7v7 with friends. We won a few championships there. And I feel that level is equivalent in the amateur sphere to AAA, AA levels players.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, after I became an administrator with the refereeing, I didn't have any more time to dedicate to playing. So I'm just strictly a referee now and an administrator.
So it's funny you mentioned the word virus before. It's making me laugh because if you think about being a referee, it's such a thankless job. Typically, most people that play the sport will want to pursue a coaching career or a career as a technical director. It's rare that someone wanted to follow your path. What made you want to become a ref?
Uh, like I said, the first it was just making some extra pocket money, and
Mm-hmm.
then once you start refereeing and you start sort of, I wanted to always be curious to try all facets of the game of soccer. I fell in love with soccer even when I was a little kid watching. My earliest memory of watching a soccer game that really counted was the Italy '90 World Cup final and semifinal. I was in Germany at that time, so
Mm-hmm.
I could hear the Germans cheering when they won the World Cup.
Yeah.
I followed obviously Italy's path all the way to the third place final, and then the USA '94. I really followed very avidly. I was still, I think, maybe 12 years old at that time, but it really got me into soccer. So once you go in love with the game and you want to try other things, spectating is one. Coaching
Mm-hmm.
I never really tried, but the refereeing was another part. And once I started that, refereeing is something that makes you appreciate the game on another level. You know, you have
Yeah.
the fan side that is very emotional, very, you know, you tend to be focused on your team, and everything that happens against your team, it's somebody's fault. So yeah, it's not all fans have that mentality, but it certainly did until I became a ref. You know, I had somebody to blame. Usually it was a bad refereeing decision. But once you take to the other side, really appreciate the work that it takes to be a referee. And me, what
Mm-hmm.
I found most valorisant, most like rewarding as a referee
Yeah.
was the structure that it gave you, the discipline, and the satisfaction of, you know, a job well done. Once you ref the game according to the rules and you made the right decisions, that, you know, somebody did a foul or deserved to be booked or sent off, and you did that. You have a really, like, there's a sense of pride in doing that job, which, like you said, it's definitely a thankless job. It's,
Yeah.
you have to have a bit of a masochist gene in you to be able to referee, and then it's not for everyone, unfortunately.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now that you've done this for a few years as both a director and a ref on the pitch, I was just curious, maybe even with the event of social media, how do you think the behavior of the parents and the players towards the refs is today? Has the problem gotten better, worse, or the same as in the past?
What we had in recent years is more of a focus on really bad incidents that, you know, transpire through the media. You know, remember the incidents in the Sud with the coach that Longueuil yelling at the linesman, the assistant referee, I should say, that eventually got fired by their uh, by their club because of
Yes.
that. And then 2 years prior, there was. I think it was in Dollar des Ormeaux where a parent attacked a ref.
Was actually a grandfather,
Okay,
believe it or not. A
yeah,
grandfather. Yeah, I remember it. I
even
think
worse.
the
So,
linesman was like 14 or 15 years old or
so
something like that. Yeah.
these are incidents that make the news because they're so extreme, and because there's a chance that that particular day you have somebody from the press present in the stands, or somebody that sends the video to a newspaper
That's the
or
thing too, right? Here's
yeah.
what I find ironic in all this, Marco. You would figure with everyone with a phone and that they could film, you'd be more on good behavior than it was back in the day when we didn't have all this technology, right? So
I think
yeah.
I think people in soccer and people that are part of the soccer community, there's something ingrained in them. There's compared to other sports, we often compare ourselves to rugby. It's like part of the culture to blame the refs or to insult the refs or to criticize the refs. It's like it's something that is almost very not impossible because there's things we are trying to do right now, especially at the IFAB level, the laws of the game to make it more strict and more
Mhm.
disciplinary in terms of people that infringe those rules. But it's we're we're fighting against years and years and decades of cultural acceptance of the referee sucks and referee you're blind, and it's compared to, like, let's say rugby, where the referees are very very much respected by the players, and they're
Mhm.
some of those rugby games, they're very high pressure games too, but it's just there's a different mentality in terms of people watching and people playing. And so oftentimes you see people, even at the grassroots level, they tend to imitate what the professionals do. So if the professionals get away with insulting the ref, or obviously they don't insult him necessarily, but they clearly
Yeah.
have an attitude of dissent or disagreement or
Yeah.
making faces or even sometimes going as far as insulting. And little kids, they think that's the common accepted behavior, so they replicate it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So one thing I think we rarely hear like talking about this in the community when we try to address this bad behavior, especially from the parents. I find we never really talk about what a negative impact it would have on the kids themselves. We're often talking about the behavior of the parent towards the referee, which definitely is the most important. It's not right for anyone to disrespect the ref, insult him or her, yell and all that. But I find what could help, and we don't do often enough, is have an awareness campaign and educate the parents on what example are you showing your child. So
Mhm.
a few things that come to mind for me is if I'm yelling at the ref, what am I showing my son? First, I'm showing my son that I'm making excuses for why they lost. You don't look at the team's performance, you blame it on the ref. So, you know, the expression excuses are for losers. You want to not teach your children, we'll just blame it on the ref and we have no accountability for ourselves and our performance, why we may have lost the game. Secondly, I find when it comes to ironically authority, you find today kids especially, we hear about it talking to teachers and other parents. The kids of today, they don't respect teachers and authority like back when we grew up, where I believe the world was a little more strict. And I remember myself, I was afraid of my coaches and the teachers, and I tried to listen and be on good behavior. So if you're yelling at the ref, what are you telling your kid? You don't care about the authority because the referee is an authoritative figure on the
Mhm.
pitch. So you're giving that bad example also to the children.
Yeah.
And another thing that comes to mind is dealing with adversity. There's going to be times in a game, bad luck happens, a bad bounce, or the ref, you know, they're human beings, they're going to make a mistake. So are you just going to complain the whole game, or you're going to deal with the adversity and try to surpass it and learn from it and grow as a team and perform better to deal with that? So I think it would be a good idea if I know it takes time, resource, or whatever, but I don't hear too much talk about this aspect about how the parents could be negatively influencing their children. I want to know your thoughts.
I mean, you definitely touched the point there. It's a matter of what you're showing your kid as an example of behavior. whether it's because you want to find excuses for a loss, or you just want to be an example to so that they emulate a positive role model of behavior. But I think ultimately it's also about human decency. You
Yeah.
know, it's a cliche, but there've been several awareness campaigns that just tackled this very subject. Like, would you show up at a hairdresser salon and start yelling at them for not doing their job, or if you think they're not doing their
Yes.
job?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think Laurentide did a campaign around those ideas. I know Soccer Quebec has done several campaigns to reinforce the idea that the referee is a human being, like you said, and that mistakes will be made, and it's part of a growing up and improvement process. So it is the same time you will not yell profanities at a striker for missing a goal or for a defender for missing a tackle. It goes in a logical sense that you should not be yelling to a referee and obscenities for miscalling a penalty. And often and not, more often than not, it's what your perception of the error is. So you think they made a
Mm.
mistake. Sometimes they might have not made a mistake at all, but the reality is they will make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes when they grow up, and that's why we send assessors to help these kids to progress in the performances that they do, which will include mistakes, but
Yeah.
just a simple part of the process. So
Yeah.
I think that the human aspect is definitely sometimes forgotten, and a few other sensibilization awareness campaigns that have proven to be effective is when we remind the parents that you're not being refed by the ref. You're being refed by Anthony, age 15. He likes to go
Yeah.
partying with his friends on a Friday night, and he plays clarinet. So now you've given an identity to that person, a name, an age, a relatable factor for him to you. They
Yeah.
might have kids of the same age. So I'm not yelling, referee, you suck. I'm calling Anthony, you suck. So it kind of like puts it in another perspective. It's much harder for you to insult or criticize Anthony
Right.
if you know his name, if you know his age, if you have a some sort of personal knowledge about him, and that has also proven to be effective. But awareness campaigns only go so far. There's
Yeah.
it's definitely the right way to go in terms of educating the public, but it's not enough, and we gotta try everything possible to keep these referees from quitting, because ultimately it's not just diminishing the referee's experience as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
refereeing a game is tough. You need to grow a thick skin in order to be able to endure these sometimes abusive behaviors.
Yeah.
But new referees that try out the profession and try out refereeing for the first time and have a bad experience on their first steps through the refereeing world, they might decide to quit because of these bad experiences. So
Yeah.
especially young kids that are in their first or second year of refereeing, those are the people that have the highest rate of quitting within those first few steps that they can take. And studies have shown that, not exclusively, because this is a particularity that we have in Quebec, that most of the referees, even in Canada actually, most of the referees that we have at the grassroots level are age 14 to 18. They're very young.
Yes.
Our own association, I think 75% of referees are within that age bracket. And our turnover rate every year is around 40%, which means referees in a region are averaging around 250 to 300 refs. We train 150 new refs every year, and we lose pretty much the same amount from one year to the next. So we're kind of staying stable. The pandemic always obviously still slashed our numbers pretty bad, and we've been slowly recovering since. But
Yeah.
more often than not, the rate stays the same, but it's the challenge of keeping these kids from quitting in their first few years because of a bad experience, and so that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah. So now talking about other solutions, we said about, awareness campaigns is one thing. What are your thoughts on what Ontario Soccer recently implemented to have body cams on the referees? Do you see that as an extreme, as a necessity, and do you think that'll happen in Quebec in the future?
So there's a few clubs in Quebec that tried that. Notably, I think Windsor from the S3 region near Sherbrooke purchased some body cams and used them. The success rate for that, I'm not aware of the details. I was speaking to the regional director of S3 just earlier today.
Hmm.
I don't know the details, but they were not enthused by the results. I think the limitation there is the logistical aspects of it. The cost, he was saying there is not a high cost because you can get body cams relatively cheap, but then it's all the protocol to put in place. And the idea with body cams, it's to act as a deterrent,
Hmm.
for behavior that is extreme. And then if it does happen, then the video evidence of the incident could also be used by the disciplinary committee in order to sanction the player further. We thought about it using in our own region. For different reasons, we did not.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the success rate was for Ontario, but it just shows that sometimes things get to a level where we are willing to try not almost anything, but new things that you
Yeah.
hadn't tried before. So that was one thing that they thought of. Let's put the state in the same principle that they introduced body cams, I presume, for police work.
Yeah.
To ensure that, I think in that case, although I don't want to say things that are untrue, but it's possible that it was to also monitor and prevent policeman behavior and to make sure that they weren't overstepping their bounds.
Yeah, I believe that that's
Uh,
very accurate on your part. Yeah.
I don't think we have that problem with referees. Not that I'm saying that referees are angels and that they always behave properly, but the
A
introduction
lot.
of body cams was more attacked as a deterrent against player or coach behavior than to monitor
Correct.
what the referee was doing and
Yeah.
why he was doing their job.
Yeah. Another thing I read is the Saint Laurent Soccer Club did an initiative where they did some role playing in order to help the referees, especially their young ones, deal with different scenarios. What would happen if, and they would have someone yelling at the ref and how to deal with certain situations. What are your thoughts on that as a way to help the young referees deal with different situations in a role playing scenario to help them
No.
know what to do? Do you think it's something good?
Yeah, that's part of the pre-preparation development that you do for with the referees before the season starts. You essentially equip them with tools that they can use, then in order to
Hmm.
address the behavior. And this could be for young referees, could be for rookie referees that are of adult age. It's essential that they know what the laws allow them to do. First and foremost, they're power to use yellow and red cards in certain types of situation, but specifically putting the referees in these scenarios, then it becomes like a lived experience at a moderate, intensity that can then be replicated later. Because ultimately, we can try to make these kids learn what they should do by learning the text of the laws, but then when the situation arises, they're confronted for the first time as a 14-year-old against an adult, more often than not is an adult that's berating them. So there's this power differential that creates a high level of intimidation for a young referee that doesn't have the
Yeah.
experience, first off, to deal with these things because he's just started refereeing, but also because he's dealing with an adult. He doesn't have the courage to, well, I'm going to book
Yeah.
it, I'm going to send them off. And so because there's is this level of inaction, the referee just does nothing and just endures this, and unfortunately, when this happens, the behavior usually escalates.
Yeah.
So he's not happy about a penalty. He might yell moderately, and then later on, it's a different type of foul. Now he's yelling more, and at the end of the game, he's yelling about every little thing. So
Yeah, I hear you. So, Marco, another thing we wanted to discuss was regarding an initiative by your region to combat violence against the referees. You had a pilot project with some marshals on the sidelines. You don't mind sharing how that idea came up and how it went? I'm assuming you did start it, or was it just at a
now we
talking?
started. So
Okay,
the idea was to use the concept of field marshals that exists in the United States, and also some parts of Canada, where this person, the field marshal, is in charge of any type of bad behavior that happens at a site of a soccer game. And usually, because the games are often played side by side, the field marshal will patrol the all the different games that are under supervision and
okay,
deal with people that have inappropriate behavior. So that's the role of field marshal. Field marshal, as based with the US model, also has the power to send off an spectator, to eject somebody from the premises and tell them you need to go to the parking lot. And if you don't, then this game will be suspended until you do. So we do not want to give our marshal, that power. What we want is to restrict the marshal's role to protecting the refs, exclusively the refs. So
okay,
the field marshal can deal with any type of disruptive behavior. The referee marshal, designed under our pilot project at Concordia, only deals with behavior that is against the referee or referees.
okay,
We wanted to target especially U12 kids, U12 games and below, because that's usually the age group that is most refereed by the rookie refs, age 14, 15, and 16. We used a list of games where we took all the assignments compared to the age of the referee and assigned specifically the games with two referees or one referee that could have used from the protection of a marshal. We hired three marshals. We started this project. The was approved by the region at the start of the season, but then we wanted to make sure to hire the right people. We put out a, a recruitment campaign looking for people that were level-headed,
mm-hmm.
good communicators. Some past experience with soccer was an asset, but not a necessity.
Okay,
And once we were happy with the people that we hired, we started it off. So it was the end of July where we launched it, and we run it for about a month and a half until the end of the season. So every week we had every day rather, we had between one and three marshals assigned to a game at random in our league. And whenever we had a team specifically that misbehaved that got flagged, then we would
okay,
send them a marshal as well. And so basically, the whole idea was to act as a deterrent once again against bad
yes,
behavior, to send a message also to the young referees. We're dealing with the problem. We're trying to protect you as often as possible, and the response has been pretty good. Everybody that we talked to about the initiative, we had the chance of having some interesting media coverage, which happened by random chance. We had a journalist from Radio Canada that was in the stands and saw the marshal with their name and the logo operating on one of our games, got interested, and so they made a report uh, about us, and then the other new media outlets picked up the report, and we got several interviews where the project kind of like got a nice little media exposure. And that also helped spread the word that
yeah,
the referee behavior, sorry, the parent and coach behavior was being monitored and should be auto ideally auto limited or
Right.
auto regulated. Yeah. So I was really happy when one particular news station launched a debate about, they started talking essentially with the guest. Well, but how did that make you feel that this association needed to implement this new thing where they had to protect the referees? Uh, and ultimately, the debate went on the lines that it should make me feel ashamed to have a situation where one of our parents from our group
Yeah.
behaves like this, and I'm not saying nothing because I'm afraid that I'm gonna be now the subject of their anger, and now he's gonna direct their anger towards me instead of the referee. But it's it's like an awakening call, and
Yeah.
that's what this conversation was generating, and that made us really happy because it's almost like if you have this type of auto regulation, you don't need marshals at all. But it
Correct.
doesn't work for every
Yeah.
game. But we're happy with what results that we got, and I think next year we're gonna propose the system again. Hopefully, hire some more staff, and we'll see how it goes. It's still part of an ongoing process where we try all different kinds of things to prevent the referees from quitting, and this is one of them.
Yeah. So now, for the benefits of the viewers who might not notice, just uh, was curious in terms of the training. If we start, let's say, at the CDC level, what kind of training would a young referee who's just starting out undergo to ref a U9, U10 match? And I'm assuming when they move on to U11 and 12 with offsides and throw-ins, there's a little more complexity to ref that match versus the younger one. What kind of courses do they have to take? How much training do they do? And what do they
So
learn?
yeah, so the to be a referee, you need two things. You need to be 14 years of age, or you need to be 14 by the time the year ends in order to
Okay.
pass the course. Technically, the laws of Quebec don't allow you to work until you're 14 unless you're supervised by an adult. So that makes hiring 13-year-olds as referees before they turn 14 a little more complicated. It's possible if you find an adult to work with them at the game, but usually it's 14. There used to be 7v7 courses that
Okay.
referees could take when they were 12. I don't believe they're offered anymore in the province of Quebec. Maybe there are in other provinces. In Quebec, it's mostly 14.
Okay.
To take the course at 14, essentially you have to do a 16-hour stage course. Usually you spend over 2 days, 8 hours on Saturday, 8 hours on Sunday. It includes a practical session. There's different kinds of ways that the referee or the candidate to be referee is scored. Their participation, their uh, pre-work pre-course study, like a little
It's like
travail
an
en
on it's like an online thing they have to do.
No, no, no. This is in présentiel at
Oh
the
yeah. Okay, when they're
first.
present at
Yeah. So
the training.
they work. They prepare this thing. They submit it before they come in. While they're doing the course, they have a little workbook that they're completing while the instructor explains the laws. And then at the end, there's an exam, a video and a written exam. Overall, there's different percentages that each section is given to, and then you have to get an 80% to pass. Once you get this pass grade, you're essentially qualified to ref any game of the age group that we have in Quebec or at the region. So you can do U9, which is the lowest that we offer, all
Okay.
the way to senior. Obviously, if you're very young or very inexperienced, you don't get those assignments senior until you have some more experience. But nothing is preventing you from doing those games.
Okay.
Mostly, though, in a first year referee will essentially ref in the U9 to U12 age group, because what we teach the referees in their introductory course is the laws of the game.
Okay.
We also obviously give them practical tools in order to adjust certain types of situation. The practical session involves them showing up to the field and and showing them, okay, this is how a pre-game routine goes. So you inspect the field, you inspect the teams, you inspect the balls, you check for players' equipment, you make sure everybody's wearing their shin pads, you check for attendance, all those sort of things that are of a
Yeah.
practical nature. And then on top of that, it's the laws. So we teach you the laws. The laws include offside. So we teach them the offside right from the get-go. And then the first year, most of their assignments will be in the U9, U10 categories where assigned in the news, but they will also get U11 and U12.
Okay.
And to prepare them for these specific rules that are league specific, on top of doing the referee course, they also have a preparatory 4 hour meeting that we organize. We explain to them these are the league rules for Concordia. So here's everything that's different from the laws of the game at Concordia. So it could be at Concordia, you can only sub on offensive throws, on goal kicks, after an injury, after a goal. So you can't sub on a corner, you can't sub on a penalty kick, you can sub on a free kick. That's not FIFA. That's not the laws of the game. But we have a special rule
Right.
at Concordia about that. And obviously, then we also teach them about the complicated time periods for U9, U10. You know, the 4 time periods. We tell them about the retreat, or I don't know you call it in English, the ligne
Yeah, yeah, the
d'ortie,
retreat line. The
retreat
retreat line.
line for U12, or everything that is not taught in the introductory course to be a referee.
Okay.
So they once they've done all this, hopefully they have the tools to be able to ref these kinds of games. They will make mistakes. Sometimes they will not apply the rules correctly, but that's part of being a growing up as an experience. And in addition to this, you will also get assigned on the line as an assistant referee because we need referees to be assigned when we need them. And sometimes even first year refs get assigned a U14 or U13, U16 on the line because there's a shortage.
Yeah.
So a first year ref who could do anywhere between a U9 to U12 most of the time, and then also pick up a few assistant referee assignments until the end of the season. And then as they progress to gaining experience and maybe even showing an interest to be part of our development program, like the academy, we have a referee academy that operates during the winter.
Hmm.
They can then join to be on the provincial list, which means doing AAA games, which is now called LDP, LSEQ, and PLSGQ. Um, and that's an elite level of list of referees that are doing our regional games and those provincial Soccer Quebec games,
Hmm.
and then climb up through the ranks of promotion system. And that's a little more complicated, so I'm not going to go over that. But
Yeah.
you know, it takes a good referee sometimes between 1 or 2 years before they hit the provincial list, and then same amount of time. If they're really good, they could do it in 2 years to be next level regional ref.
Very interesting. So one thing you mentioned earlier that caught my attention was what the ref needs to do before the match is played. I don't know if you heard about what happened at a U15 match a couple of weeks ago. We had Max Truman on as a guest, and his son was on the team where they played. I think it was a semi-final at the U15 level, and there was a big hole in one of the nets, and his team had scored, but the ref didn't allow the goal, and it caused a big hoopla. And apparently, the club made a formal complaint to Soccer Quebec, saying, that's the ref's job to check the nets before the match is played. So my question was, I don't know, did you hear about that match? Okay, so
I
you
did not
didn't.
hear about the incident.
So
No.
um, something like that where you do have, because I remember I did see the photo, the hole in the net was pretty big. Would that be reason enough to make a formal complaint that a certain procedure wasn't followed, or it's just, well,
I don't
bad
want to comment
circumstance?
on that specific case because I don't want to tie anyone's hands or say something that might be
Yeah,
against.
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I will
that's
say
fine.
how we handle. field checks. Well, we generally supposed to handle field checks both at the regional level and on the provincial list when you're doing Soccer Quebec games. So field check is part of the referee's job description. However, what is not part of the referee's job description is to repair field nets if they're not
Okay.
properly organized. The other thing with nets themselves, I don't, was this a provincial game or a regional game?
Yes, it was
Provincial game.
LDP.
Okay, so there's also a difference in terms of what the laws of the game specify that the nets are required or not. So, in this is actually something that is very surprising to a lot of prospective referees that are taking the course for the first time because they don't know about this. And when I
Yeah.
tell them what's in the laws, do they say the field nets are compulsory or sorry, mandatory, compulsory, or facultative? Optional.
Optional. Yeah.
And the answer is they're optional. The FIFA laws of the game don't obligate uh, a field to have nets. Why do you have nets in most of the soccer games that we watch in LDP? Because it's a league rule. So the league rules specify not only do we follow FIFA IFAB laws of the game, but we also have the requirement to have nets in place because this is a special
Yeah.
the requirement of the competition that we're in. Now, that said, I've done my share of many provincial level games as well, Police Provincial and all that. Usually, but I'm not obligated to, usually I bring a piece of tape, a zip tie. If I see the nets, they're in bad state, I will try to repair because it
Hmm.
benefits my refereeing of the game to have nets in proper order.
You're
Sometimes,
avoiding the fire from taking place. You're
yeah,
being proactive.
I mean, it's in your interest because if
Yeah.
you as a referee are not capable of the determine, and that's what the main role of a net is, other than the less well, the also obvious one is to if the ball gets kicked really hard, you don't want to chase 50 meters, 100 meters to go get it. But
Yeah.
it's mostly to help the referees to determine whether a goal was scored or not. Goal enters the net, goal is scored, the goal gets on the side of the net, it has not. Um, when I check a field for net integrity, I will have zip ties. I will have coach physio tape or that I can use to repair. But it's not my obligation to do so. It's the home team's obligation to do so.
Yeah. I agree.
They, they're
You're right.
supposed to provide a field with the proper conditions. So I don't know what the referees did in that game. I don't want to speculate, but
Yeah.
ultimately, if I start a game with nets that are not 100% repaired, or maybe they even got repaired by me, but then hard shot makes the physio tape rip off, and now what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop the game to put the physio tape back on. Sometimes I will just let the game carry on. So if that happens, and unfortunately the referees are not able to tell whether the ball entered the field or not, it happens. It happened
Yeah.
even in a professional game. You can look it up. I think it was in Bundesliga. And I can't remember which game it was, like several years ago. Somebody made a header, and the ball went into the whole of the side netting,
Oh,
and the referee
interesting.
awarded the goal.
Oh, wow. So this was before VAR.
This was before VAR.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, for sure things happened. But the thing is, I think the frustration for Max and his son was the expectation where it was at a higher level LDP match at U15. It wasn't like a U9, you
Yeah,
know, Saturday morning meaningless CDC game where, there's no standings, there's no playoff implications, that
yeah,
you win or lose that game, not the end of the world, versus them it was like playoff implications and all that. I think that was the shocker for him, was that figure at that level the refs should be highly qualified in comparison to the younger ones at the CDC. And well, my hope is that it'll turn into a positive, because it did generate quite a bit of awareness, just like you were saying, your Marshall thing, when it got out in the media. You hope by having it made public and people hear about it. Now I'm sure, like I know myself, ever since I heard about it, when I go on the field, I look at the nets as well, and I'll tell the ref if I see some. Hey, ref, by the way, there's a hole over here. Let's see if we can
And this
fix
is
it, even though it's not his job. But I'm gonna have my eyes. I'm gonna be more vigilant now when I'm on the
no, for
field as
sure.
a coach.
And this is, by the way, what we also tell the refs at the regional level, or in a game where you, let's say you don't, you didn't think to bring zip ties or physio tape, or you don't have time to repair
Yeah,
the field because maybe you've been negligent and you didn't do it within the proper time. So now you're doing the walk on ceremony. You shake hands with your assistants. Now your assistant go to check the nets, and sometimes, not often, it should not be that way, but this is the first time those nets get checked because of different other reasons for a delay. And
yeah,
now the problem with the nets gets reported to the ref. Now it's too late to do anything about it. So the only thing the assistants and the referee can do is be informed.
yeah,
So there's a hole on the right side of the net on this north end of the field. Be careful. Let's be extra careful if the
yeah,
ball is coming from the right side. And I'm going to rely on you, my assistant, to help me to make sure you get a different angle to tell me if you think the ball went in or not. And that's the only thing you can do because, like I said, if you decide to have the game played, I mean, what else are you gonna do? The alternative
yeah,
is to refuse to play the game. And I think ultimately the the people at the competitions level at the Soccer Quebec will be pretty annoyed if a game gets canceled because of a tiny little hole
yeah. I
in the
agree.
so they would rather the game be played with awareness of it and not have to reschedule, you know,
Yeah,
two teams and don't forget it's provincial. So sometimes these teams they have traveled 2 3 hours from another place to get to the
yeah,
game.
absolutely.
So you have
No,
to
for sure. It's
do these
but
things.
the home team should really take care of their fields and
Well,
work with their city to make sure that the fields are in good
yeah,
condition, that the netting is okay. I don't
and
know why
ultimately
people
if
have this thing
somebody,
like.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. I was
no,
cutting
I
you
was
off.
gonna say ultimately if somebody will get be blamed for the disrepair of the bad state of the field, it will be the home team.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Marco, before let you go, quick few fire questions to throw your way. These are fun, easy one answer or two questions. So, the first one that comes to mind, your favorite team.
First off, before I answer, let me say I really enjoy your background.
Okay, thank you.
Very, very nice. I'm not a Milan fan, unfortunately. I do like Milan. One of my favorite defenders growing up was obviously my generation, Paolo Maldini.
Yeah, he's my idol. I've loved him since I was a kid. So yeah,
So
yeah,
I had I think Euro '96 Maldini shirt. Not our best Euro, unfortunately, but I
yeah,
still remember that shirt because as a defender, he exemplified everything that a defender should be: grace, poise,
yeah,
slide tackles that were always on the ball, almost never a foul. But all that being said, you know how I butter you up to prepare you for my answer.
yeah.
I'm a
Please don't say
Juventino.
Inter.
No, I'm not an Inter fan. That's not
Okay, so we're okay.
Juventino. So I started, and this is
Uh,
also the difference compared to most people that have a, at least the most people that I know that have a favorite team based on somebody from their family or where
yeah,
they're from. I'm as I already told you, I'm from all around. My family is from the south of Italy, around Naples, Salerno.
okay.
But I fell in love with Juventus by watching Ruby Baggio.
There
So
you go.
Roberto
He's
Baggio,
he's
'94.
also has
I
a
had to pick
special
a
place in
team.
my heart, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So after that, Baggio retired, and then it became Del Piero. Del Piero was my
yeah.
childhood idol, other than Maldini being a defender.
Interesting. Have you ever been to watch Juventus
I
in
have.
Torino?
I have. The only game that I did go to was the 2003 Champions League semifinal against Real Madrid,
Oh
where
wow, cool.
they lost 2-1 in the first leg, and then they had to catch up on the second leg. And this game was played, I think it was the semifinal just before I think the final was in Manchester that year. And so we played to score at least a 2-0 or 3-1, and we won that game 3-1. Zidane was playing, and
Nice.
I was visiting my a cousin going from Paris to Salerno, and the only Juventus shirt that I had, because I left my other ones in Montreal, was the Juventus Zidane shirt. So
Okay.
I was wearing at a Juventus game the Zidane shirt with Zidane playing for the other team. So it
Wow.
was pretty special, but ultimately
Yeah.
we won. It was a pretty epic game. I remember that game for all my life, but it was magical. This was before they demolished the Delle Alpi, was now
Okay.
Juventus Allianz Stadium.
A stadium you haven't been to that you would love to go watch a game at one day.
Yeah. So I haven't been to many stadiums across the world. As living in Paris, I've been to Stade de France, Parc des Princes a few times. I've been to San Siro. I actually went that same year to watch the Coppa Italia final that you guys won against Roma, and Cassano telling "fuck off" to the referee. Sorry, I don't know if you can swear on this podcast, but it was typical Cassano getting thrown out
Yeah.
of that game. And then so I did went at least once at the San Siro. I've never been and would like to go to the Bernabeu or to the Nou Camp.
Nice. And the last question that we always have fun with our guests. You had your meetings at work, had a lot of stuff to do, and you finally get home from a long day and you're making pasta for supper. Are you cooking penne rigate or penne lisce?
For me, it's Rigate
Bravo. There you go. That's the
because
right answer.
because it takes up the oils and the sauce better.
Exactly. The other ones, it just slides off too quickly, so it
That's
doesn't
it.
go good. Marco, thank you so much for joining me today. I really learned a lot. It's something that's important part of the game, and I hope we can drive some awareness towards the players, the parents, and the coaches and the admins of the clubs to teach everyone. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and
For sure.
they're human
Uh,
beings. They're gonna make mistakes just like the kids on the field make mistakes. And if you don't like seeing your kid be yelled at if he makes a mistake on the field, well, you shouldn't yell at the ref when they make a mistake. But I have to say, when I played, I'd be a hypocrite to say I was an angel and I never got mad at a ref. I'm sure I've done it sometimes myself, but as a coach, I have to say I never really had any issue with the refs per se, but my I coached my kids at a young age, so we still didn't get into having like tactical plays with the offsides and things like that. So when it's at a younger age, there's not really much a ref will do to influence the outcome of a match. So we'll see if I could keep this model behavior going forward. As my son is playing U11 this summer, and we're gonna learn about the offside. So it'll be fun. But thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope everyone that watched and are listening to this can gain a bit of knowledge of the poor referees and have some sympathy for them as we move on and try to make things better for everyone. Thanks again, Marco.
Thank you, Marcello, for having me, and I was glad to be the first referee guest that you had on your podcast. I hope I will not be the last.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we'll definitely have you on another time to talk about the VAR. And no, I'm just kidding. That would be a 3 hour special.
Yeah, but there's some interesting improvements that
Yeah.
the laws are trying to make year after year to make the game
Mhm.
better. I think
So
some might you might not agree, but some you can definitely see since 2016 where it was this huge major overhaul on the laws and the way the
yeah,
document was presented and the way it's been evolving. And VAR will generate the always some a lot of debate.
yeah,
It's inevitable. I think the the way they're planning to change their protocol for the future. They're doing different tests right now, notably to see if the concept of maybe like a challenge system, the same way that they have in football, American football, could be used
Yeah.
in VAR as well. They already tried it at the futsal level for the World Cup.
Mhm.
So a team would get one challenge per half or two challenges per half. I don't remember what they're testing. And if the challenge is upheld, they get it back. If they don't get to change the decision, then they lose their challenge. I think it's a new way of seeing things and using technology right now
Yeah.
to make the decisions that VAR is taking less frustrating, because I think in terms of what VAR has done to correct mistakes is invaluable, but at the same time, the fan in me is very frustrated at seeing goals being called off for like a nose of being offside,
Yeah.
which is
Or a
just
toll. Yeah, I hear you.
we'll
Hopefully
see.
they'll get better. We'll see. Thanks again, Marco. And everyone, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share, as we wanted this community to grow. And we'll see you next time.